Update, right through, new line, Warner Bros. Rampage continued to dominate overseas play this weekend, adding $57 million in 61 markets to push the international box office to $216.4 million. The global tally on the Dwayne Johnson-starrer is now $283 million. In China, Rampage crossed the $100 million threshold and held number one as it did in many key markets, easing only slightly in some of the smaller hubs. It still has France, Germany and Japan up its sleeve in May. Rampage's week-on-week drop was 50% during a frame that saw summer weather largely blanket Western Europe, meaning movie houses will have seen less traffic across the region. Overall, there were no major new wide releases as the world awaits Avengers: Infinity War, which starts offshore rollout on Wednesday. Instead, this was a frame of holdovers and expansions, with some notable milestones achieved. As we reported yesterday, Steven Spielberg's Ready Player One crossed the $200 million mark in the Middle Kingdom, and the $500 million mark worldwide. With a full $23 million in the current offshore frame, the cums are $395.4 million international and $521.6 million global. The Warner Bros. Amblin Village Roadshow movie notably began its box office quest in Japan, where it grossed $4.4 million on 749 screens to best Kong Skull Island's opening by 19%. Meanwhile, Paramount's A Quiet Place refuses to be silenced. The John Krasinski-helmed scarer knocked out another $15 million to increase the overseas volume to $74.8 million off a 37% third session drop and pacing above most comps. The global cum is $207.16 million. Sony Animation elsewhere, Sony's Peter Rabbit is springing towards $200 million internationally, having now overtaken the overseas lifetimes of both Paddington movies and still with Korea and Japan to hop on board. Worldwide, the Beatrix Potter Bunny has $310 million in the basket. This week will see the mightily anticipated arrival of Disney, Marvel's Infinity War beginning Wednesday in Australia, France, Korea and more before expanding through Friday everywhere except Russia and China. In the latter, there are no major Hollywood titles bowing until May 11th when the Avengers assemble, which will give the holdovers a bit of space. An upcoming local movie to keep an eye on in the Middle Kingdom is romance film Ascendum, which is tracking well ahead of next weekend's May 1st holiday. We'll be back early this week with a preview of the global outlook for the next session. Breakdowns on this weekend's films have been updated below. Rampage WB with an additional $57 million in 61 markets on 32,760 screens. New line, Warner Bros. Rampage crossed the $200 million mark at the international box office this weekend. The overseas cum is now $216.4 million with $283 million global. About 48% of the current session came from China, where the Dwayne Johnson-starrer picked up $27.2 million and held no. And the total there is now $106.6 million. The studio gets 25% of the take in the Middle Kingdom, where there is still some swing room for Rampage. There are no major Hollywood titles on deck until May 11th when Avengers: Infinity War arrives. In the meantime, however, there will be a flood of local picks including romance film Ascendum, which is tracking well ahead of the May 1st holiday. Overall, Rampage's production cost $120 million, held on to its no. ones in several markets also including Korea, the UK, Mexico and the UAE. In the UK, the drop was significant, although summer weather is likely part culprit there. In Latin America, the film was no. one for a 36% regional drop. Some smaller individual markets had tight holds: Philippines, -30%, Argentina, -28%, Chile and Israel, -24%, New Zealand, -13%. The top 5 markets outside China are Korea, $10.2 million, Mexico, $9.6 million, the UK, $9.1 million, Malaysia, $6.2 million, and Indonesia, $5.2 million. Rampage still has France, May 2nd, Germany, May 10th, and Japan, May 18th, to come. Ready Player One Warner Bros. Crossing $500 million worldwide this weekend and $200 million in China. Steven Spielberg's sci-fi pop culture ode took in $23 million during the frame on an estimated 14,615 screens in 67 markets. The international cum through Sunday is just shy of $400 million at $395.4 million. Globally, the Warner Bros. Amblin Village Roadshow pick has grossed $521.6 million. The final market for RP1, Japan, opened this session and delivered $4.4 million on 749 screens. The results are 19% above Kong Skull Island, 28% better than Pacific Rim Uprising, 39% bigger than Jumanji, and more than triple the first Hunger Games. RP1 fell to No. 3 this weekend in China's local picture 21 Carat took the silver. Although the studio recoups just 25%, the Middle Kingdom run has been spectacular, with a total now of $207.4 million and a spot on the charts as the No. 10 biggest Hollywood grosser in the market. It is also by far the biggest U.S. movie of the year there. The top 5 hubs are China, $207.4 million, the UK, $21.6 million, Korea, $18.3 million, France, $17.3 million, and Russia, $12.4 million. A Quiet Place. Paramount Pictures. From Paramount and Platinum Dunes, the John Krasinski-helmed silent horror pick had another scary good hold overseas in the third session. It dipped just 37% from last weekend, which itself had dropped by just 25%. Speaking volumes in 57 markets, it added $15 million for an offshore cume of $74.8 million and a worldwide tally of $207.16 million, including its stellar domestic run. It still has France, Japan and China to come. For all markets in release, the Krasinski, Emily Blunt-starrer is now 87% above Don't Breathe, 61% above Get Out, 58% over Lights Out, 5% above The Conjuring and 9% below Split. The latter last year finaled at $140 million overseas. In new openings, Spain bowed No. 2 with $891,000 at 287 locations, and Vietnam kicked off with $302,000 at 139 locations for No. 3. The UK is the top play so far with $11.7 million after a 47% dip from the sophomore frame. The best third weekend hold was in Australia with a 26% drop for a $6.7 million cume. Rounding out the top 5 market cumes are Mexico, $6.6 million per third weekend, Brazil, $5.3 million per third weekend, and Russia, $4.1 million per second weekend. Peter Rabbit. Rex, Shutterstock doing the bunny hop on 6,400 screens in 55 offshore markets. Sony Animation's Peter Rabbit is on his way to $200 million international. Stuffing his basket with another $6.4 million, the blue-jacketed rascal has now grossed $195.7 million overseas and $310 million worldwide. Korea and Japan are still on deck in May. The Will Gluck-directed story of Beatrix Potter's classic character has become the biggest non-Bond Sony movie ever in the UK after recently holding No. 1 for 4 weeks. Sony opened the movie there well ahead of Easter, in order to tee it up for the holidays, which clearly paid off. The UK gross is a leading $54.5 million, followed by China with $26.2 million, Australia at $17.2 million, Germany's $11.4 million, and Russia's $9.5 million. Isle of Dogs. Fox Searchlight. Wes Anderson's Isle of Dogs bark up in China this weekend, where the stop-motion animated pic played on 13,000 screens and grossed $4.2 million. The Fox Searchlight film grew from Friday to Saturday and was about even on Sunday, taking the No. 4 position behind Rampage, Ready Player One and a local opener. Chinese audiences have given it a terrific 8.5 score on Douban. In total this session, Anderson's Berlin Silver Bear winner added $5.6 million in 14 markets to lift the overseas cume to $15.2 million. The UK leads early international play with $7.7 million. Truth or Dare. Universal, Blumhouse's horror pick about a harmless game gone wrong expanded to another 18 markets this session for a total 25 in play. The sophomore session was worth $4.1 million for a $7.9 million rolling cume overseas and $38.3 million worldwide on the $5 million budget pick. From director Jeff Wadlow, the movie saw a strong start in Mexico with $1.3 million at 958 locations to track above Blumhouse's Happy Death Day. The UAE is also tracking above that film, as well as The Visit, opening to $223,000 on 45 screens. The UK was the top holdover despite the summer-like weather, with a 56% drop and $585,000 at 442 dates. The cume there is $2.5 million. There are several majors on deck throughout May and June. Blockers Universal's comedy added another $2.6 million in 27 offshore hubs for a $19.5 million international cum and $67.8 million global. The Netherlands was a new play with $267,000 at 69 dates and no. 3 that's ahead of Trainwreck and in line with the boss. They had great weather in Holland too this weekend. Taiwan was the next best opener with a good $255,000 start at no. 3 on 77 screens. That tops game night. Bad Moms and Sisters. Germany, again despite the sky-high mercury, was a stronghold -45% at no. With a cum to date of $1.84 million. Austria dipped just 34% for a total $552,000 after 2 frames. Australia leads markets with $7.5 million after a slight dip in weekend 4, and the UK is at $5.3 million also in the 4th session. Spain, Italy, Russia and Mexico are on deck in May, with France hitting August 1st. MISC updated cums. Notable Disney Pacific Rim, Uprising, Uni, $1.8 million international weekend, 57 markets, $127.5 million international cum, excluding China. Campeones, Uni, $1.7 million international weekend, Spain only, $8.3 million Spain cum. Sherlock Gnomes, Par, $1.7 million international weekend, 29 markets, $18.1 million international cum. Loved Simon, Fox, $1.5 million international weekend, 14 markets, $13.1 million international cum. Coco, Dis, $1.4 million international weekend, $1.3 million from Japan, $797.6 million international cum. Black Panther, Dis, $1.2 million international weekend, $642.9 million international. Commerd Sparrow, Fox, $1.2 million international weekend, 22 markets, international cum. $98.40 MTHE Greatest Showman, Fox, $1 million international weekend, 10 markets, international cum. $254.10 Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle, SNY, $920,000 international weekend, 26 markets, $551.5 million international cum, $955.5 million worldwide. Boss Baby, Uni, $800,000 international weekend, Japan only, $28.5 million Japan cum. Maiden of Thieves, STX, $624,000 international weekend, includes Korea opening, $34.6 million international cum. Lady Bird, Uni, $600,000 international weekend, 23 markets, $24.8 million international cum.